For paper 2, do not pick more than one question. You can pick it from, because I know Jack was asking, can I pick it from the authoritarian states thing? Well, as you'll see, because I'm going to show you what the authoritarian states unit looks like. You can, probably not. Probably most of you are going to pick among the 2 questions offered having to do with 20th century war. That's number 11. Or the 2 questions having to do with the Cold War. That's number 12. Okay? All right, there's the map there. Flip over to the bottom of page 34. Here, take a quick look at this, just so I'm telling you. If we were to, last year, we did this unit, and then they put us on quarantine and so forth, and then nobody had to write any essays. They just based it entirely on the IA. But here is the authoritarian states unit. And if you look very much at the bottom, take a look at the bottom of page 34 there. Is everyone with me? The bottom of page 34, can you read that? It's kind of small. Okay, 34. That's over here. Okay? Yeah. So for each of those, if we were to have a normal year, you would have finished up this year by doing research and then doing an oral presentation to the entire class for a grade. Yeah, for, I want to say like 20, 25 minutes or so each. Dang, yeah, you guys missed out on that. No need to do that so much because in the past, you guys needed to write 2, paper 2 questions. So that's why we did that additional unit. But look at the very bottom there. Some of those names of some of the people we've covered already. So maybe you can plug in, take a look there. Mao, we talked about that. Mussolini, to a degree. Stalin, fair amount as well, even in the 10th grade. Hitler, Franco. But there's quite a few others that we have not gotten into much detail. Okay? It helps if you're not talking while I'm talking. So that's why I would say just kind of stay away from those. But if for some reason you don't like either of the 2 20th century war questions or either of the 2 Cold War questions, and you like one of the authoritarian government questions, go for it. But I would be kind of shocked if that actually was the case. Okay? Yeah, we just got a little power surge. That's fine. Let's make sure this is still on. Yeah, because it's operating on battery, so that's fine. Okay, we don't need the projector anyway. Okay. All right. Flip over to the bottom of page, or to 35. That's the basics of all of the world, topic 11. Those are the 20th century wars. Okay? I know, we've got those. And those are like packed throughout your notes over the course of the last 2 years. Okay? Yeah, all those different wars. Some of those ones I'd say like, like the big wars and so forth, World War I and World War II and so forth, those are probably better to pick from. I would be shocked. I have yet to see somebody choose something and include like just the Chaco War. Although they give you a fair amount of leeway. They could say like compare to civil wars. Okay? And I will give you like sample questions from all of the previous exams going back to like 2011. So you'll actually see what kinds of questions that have been used. It worked this way. Okay? So let's say paper 2 exam. You have 45 minutes. Okay? You got the exam, you got all the questions in front of you. You look at the questions, you're like, no, maybe, no. This one, I like this one. Okay, so you made a decision. You got 45 minutes. You take probably about 5 minutes, write yourself up a little outline. Spend the rest of the time writing your essay. That's it. No. What you know is the content. You know this. Okay? You know, and that's why it's frustrating at times because like, and we'll see this, like one of the paper 2 topics is like Cold War. Compare, 2 Cold War countries with respect to, whatever. And you're like, oh, good, I'm going to do the United States and the Soviet Union. Then you read the question further, except the United States and the Soviet Union. And then you're like, all right, fine. China might be a good one on that. And then maybe, I don't know, Cuba or Vietnam or Britain or Germany. And actually, be careful. When you're talking about Germany in World War II, Landon, can you just talk, excuse me, during the Cold War, can you talk about just Germany during the Cold War?
I mean, you could. But
That would be very, not very clear. That would show a lack of knowledge about what the actual status of Germany was during the Cold War.
yeah.
How many Germanys are there during the Cold War?
Two.
It's two. What are they called?
East and West.
Right, what's the biggest difference?
One was a nasty place, and the other one was all right.
When you say nasty, wow, that's very judgmental. Was there a governmental difference between East and West?
Yes.
Which was, what's the difference?
The East was run by communist government, and the West was vibing with the U.S.
Yeah, yeah. So it was like both countries were on opposite sides of that one. And I think we've talked about East and West Germany quite a bit during that. That might actually work out pretty well as well.
Okay,
Yes?
so, I mean, I would obviously study, like, my notes before doing this, but, like, say we didn't know, like, maybe the name of, like, the West German leader at a specific period in time.
It's kind of like what I said to Jack. If you don't know the name and you can do it accurately, then say the West German leader during the Berlin Wall crisis. Okay? It helps to know names. That's why I've been such a stickler about like making you guys know as many names and things as possible, because that feeds and makes your essays much more rich and intelligent and detailed. As I tell students, you can't do a really good civil rights essay and say some guy had a dream, gave a speech, and that was it. You know, it's not quite like that. There's more detail involved. Okay, flip over to page 36. You can take a look there. Cold War, at least with the Cold War, that started with you guys toward the tail end of junior year. We covered that tail end of junior year all the way through most of the senior year. So at least you can focus in a little bit more crisply when you're like going over those notes. Okay? Flip over now to page 47. There's the paper 3. Notice it's kind of like, you know, I had my original paperwork, my original notes on there, and I just like scribbled. So I've scribbled through quite a bit. Do not make the mistake when you choose 2 essays for paper 3 that they're from the same topic area. That used to be cool, now it's not cool. Thanks, IB, but, you know, whatever. Because you're only doing 2 essays in paper 3 now. In the past, you had to do 3 essays. You could do 2 of them from one topic area and then 1 of them from another. You guys have actually covered a lot of material. Now, granted, I didn't teach you in 9th grade, and I typically, when I teach 9th graders, I do 3 paper 3 topic areas. Having said that, that's in the 9th grade. So when I ask students what questions did they choose to write about, not as many choose to write stuff covered in the 9th grade. So it's no big whoop, okay? It's no big deal. Take a look, flip over there, and we'll walk you through. So like, for example, number 49. Notice I've not included 1, 2, and 3. I mean, I left that all together. That's early history. You can see number 4, religion in the New World. No, not applicable. Slavery in the New World. Number 5, no, not applicable. Number 6, independence movements. It's one of the 9th grade topics. Don't worry about it. Okay, there's 2 questions there. I don't know if you're going to feel equipped to do either one of those. Move on. You want to go through fairly quickly. Probably the area that you're going to be moving on to fairly quickly are going to be some of the later ones, but not all of them. IB history teachers need to make choices as to what they're going to be covering in the limited amount of time that we have with you guys. Okay? All right? I have covered with you, for sure, plenty of topics, so you're going to have some good choices. In fact, continue on through that. If you look at page 50, no, that's not going to work either. Number 7, number 8, it's not going to work out for you. Let's turn over to page 51. Up, here we go. Ding, ding, ding. Look at topic number 10. Emergence of the Americas in Global Affairs, 1880 to 1929. The Civil War. Did you cover the Civil War in 9th grade? As an IB unit? No. I think you guys, 9th grade, you guys were doing like early, like very early stuff. Yeah, I mean, when I gave material to the person who was going to be your 9th grade teacher, they elected to do other stuff. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. So you don't have those ones. It's tough to take over and do all of the full IB. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. You guys are okay, though. Take a look. It's there. So you could choose either one of the two questions. It might be something you write about the Spanish-American War or World War I, because that was part of it. But notice this paper 3 one, there's always going to be a component of the Americas. That's why we've been including quite a bit on Canada, and other countries in the Americas relative to their participation in the world. Take a look there, number 11. You guys are fortunate on that one. A lot of times on the Mexican Revolution ones, there's one or maybe even two really good choices that students pick from, because that's a fairly concise, focused unit that's relatively small. We were able to do that with you guys before. If you feel comfortable with that, having gone over your notes and so forth again, maybe one of the Mexican Revolution questions will work out for you. Yeah, I know. You have to go through and you need to make sure you know who you're talking about. You can't just go, that guy with a really crazy mustache. Not good enough. You need to know the difference between Francisco or Pancho Villa and Francisco Madero and Huerta, etc., etc., etc. Okay? Sorry, you know. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. That's true. That's true. All right, so flip over to page 52. Didn't get into the domestic politics so much as the Great Depression. It's not like you didn't know about the Great Depression, but if you look, I mean, if you're just curious, you can look and like, oh, in order to do a really good Great Depression in the Americas unit, you would need to cover all those different bullet points. You don't have time to do all of those ones. It's crazy. Here we go, though. Did we do the Second World War in the Americas? Heck yeah, because there's some nice overlap with other units there. So number 13, there's a couple of questions there, honing in on some of the key things having to do with the United States, as well as some of the other American countries involved. Although it's kind of tricky because it's like, oh, what did the Canadians do to the Japanese that were living in Canada? I mean, we gave you some of the details there. Would you feel comfortable writing a big enough essay and so forth on that? If you're a good writer and you can give enough really good, accurate, key details, you can write a good essay, even if the amount of material is relatively small, as long as it's accurate and well-formed into a really good essay. Yeah. We haven't gotten to that page yet, but I'll keep going. Okay, look over to page 53. Obviously, I skipped number 14 and number 15. Interesting stuff there. That actually works out better because, like, if you're teaching an IB course in Canada and you're already required in Canada to cover, like, Canadian history and so forth, it dovetails very nicely. So I'm sure a lot of Canadian schools do that, as well as other IB schools in the Americas and Latin America cover those ones. All right, look at number 16 there, okay? So you were asking about the second bullet point? Third one. Eisenhower and Dulles, the New Look policy, we covered that. And this application, you can go back in the notes and so forth. I mean, you're looking there like, New Look, and you're like, even if you Google it, you're like, oh, yeah, okay, the New Look policy. Yeah, basically, we got a lot of military capability with nuclear weapons. Let's just bring it right up to that moment. Or maybe not, okay? So we've covered all those various different things in 16. Maybe one of those questions is pretty good. All right, let's flip over to number 50, page 54. 17, it's kind of a mixed bag on 17. I would say if you look in there, and as I looked at all the previous questions that they've offered for paper 3, having to do with the civil rights movement, there's usually one out of the two that clearly deals with the United States civil rights movement, and that's something that I covered in the 10th grade. The other question typically covers some of the other things that I did not go ahead and include when I covered that with you guys in the 10th grade. Like, I mean, you used to, but a lot of times it's just like we're getting really crunched for time. So I kind of left some of that out, having to do with some of the other component parts. But, I mean, I look through, it's kind of like so many different opportunities to talk about your understanding of Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and some of the other things that were associated with the U.S. Civil Rights Movement. So that's a common one that students have elected to choose one from as well. Okay? And then that's it. Yeah. So probably you guys going in there, for 2 essays, you have to write on paper 3. I'm going to say you're going to have reasonably 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 questions that you could pull from to do your best to, which is a good amount, which is good odds. And you're probably, the nice thing is, you're going to pick a variety of different questions. And don't worry about what anybody else is doing and so forth. I know Mrs. Rao tries to make sure that not everyone does the exact same essay on various different things, and so she prepares you as well that way for a variety, because if you hand a stack of papers to a grader and if they're all writing about the same novel, does this sound familiar? Yeah, she likes to prepare you in a variety of things. In my own way, I'm doing the exact same thing. You guys have been prepared as a class this year, the class of 2021, to, I would say, handle at least 9 different questions from the paper 3 area, and at least 4 different questions from the paper 2 area. And those paper 2 topics are huge. Yeah, Jacob?
Just as with paper 3, you cannot choose from the same topic as the 2 questions. Is that between paper 1, 2, and 3?
Paper 1 is a whole separate thing. That's not even an issue. Paper 2, it's not an issue this year, because you're only writing 1 essay.
But I meant between each other, not within.
You're only going to be sitting down, and when you're doing paper 1, you're doing paper 1. That's cleared away. When that hour is done, in fact, let me double check for you guys. Yeah, on May 4th, you do paper 1 for 60 minutes, and then later that day, you do paper 2. The next day, you come back on May 5th, and you do the paper 3, the 2 essays. So you're not facing them all at the same time, which is good. Okay, does that make sense? I mean, that's fine. That's a good clarifying question. Okay? Any questions about kind of that overview? All right? So what are we going to turn to now and give you very specific instructions on and help get you started preparing for? And in fact, this is going to work out fine, because when you come in on Wednesday and take the exam, finish it. You know, I know some of you take a little bit longer and so forth, but then after that, we're going to use the remainder of the period to continue whatever we can't get to in the next 15 minutes on training you on paper 1. Are you ready? Let's get you to paper 1. Okay. This packet has the training. Actually, I looked at this and I'm like, oh, I got my training materials in there twice, because I think it had gone missing when I was gone, and I'm like, oh no, I have to do this again, and then I found it, and I'm like, let me just throw that in as well. So if you'll look over the first page and the second page, the ideas are kind of going to be repeated on the 3rd and 4th pages as well. And then the back part of the packet will include the samples, which is great. Yeah. The samples for paper 1, it's a little bit thinner than what you're going to get when I give you the sample questions for paper 2. Paper 2, there's a big, thick sample area. Same thing for paper 3. Why not so much for paper 1? Why do we only go back as far as 2017? Because they changed the exam. The topics for paper 1, 2016 and earlier, were different. There was no genocide topic. The one that I chose was one called Communism in Crisis. This is a great topic to do because it focused on the latter years of the Soviet Union, China, and Eastern Europe, which is like, wow, we're already kind of covering that as well. And then I would do a little bit more on China in particular. But they got rid of those. So what are our choices now? Rwanda and Kosovo. Or maybe, if you get lucky, there's one on the U.S. civil rights movement, but you don't have to worry about that so much. What's that? Genocide is paper 1 topic. It actually is referred to as conflict and crisis. Oh, sorry. The rape of Nanking. I'm like, no. No. And in fact, you understand this as you go through the training and so forth. Because a lot of this is like using your brain and reading things and writing sensible words based on what you've read. You're going to do fine on that one. Trust me. You're going to do fine. Okay? All right, here we go. Take a look on the very front page there. Okay? Here is paper 1. 1 hour. Everyone, I need your full attention. Okay? because it really is distracting. I'm trying to be very, very efficient with you, and I'm also trying to make this very efficient for the people who are going to be getting this training, having watched because they've got too much else to do, or they're on quarantine, or they're like barely hanging on to cognition, having spent a lot of time getting their IAs wrapped up and so forth. Okay, so it really is. I really do appreciate your full cooperation and attention on this. Okay, when the time is up and you are off doing whatever else, fine, go to town. But we're under a bit of a crunch here, and I want this to be very efficient and very helpful for you. Okay, paper 1 is 1 hour. You're going to be going bing, 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 bing. You will not really have a lag time in paper 1, okay, because you've got all kinds of different tasks that you need to attend to within the 1 hour. In fact, take a look there. On the bottom of that front page there, number 78, first question, part A, and first question, part B, you're basically is going to test your understanding of one of the sources. And when it says 3 marks, guess how many things you're going to be putting down, almost in bullet form, but you'll be writing like 3 quick sentences. Oh, there we go, I gave you the answer. 1 sentence, 2 sentences, 3 sentences. And the reader's going to go, got it, got it, got it, you got 3 marks. Okay? First question, part B, 2 marks. Guess how many sentences you might be writing in that particular section? 2 sentences. I kid you not. This is not a big, huge, massive. It's a quick, short, get in, get out essay. Okay, not even essay, excuse me, answer. Okay? A chunk of your time is going to be spent reading the materials. All right? When you get to the second question, oh, look, it's 4 marks. It's an OPVL. You're going to need to analyze the value limitations of one of the sources, and you're going to refer to the origin, purpose, and of course you're always referring to content because content is what they're talking about. So it's an OPVL analysis, 4 marks. Bing, 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 bing. Can you do that? Yes. It's a P. OPVL. It'll take you about 10 minutes, so you want to pace yourself. Shh. For some of the exams, you're going to be in here. We'll have that covered up. For some of the exams, I think you'll be in the choir room. But you'll look at the clock and just pace yourself, making sure that you're not taking too much time or that you're not hurrying too quickly. I think if you pace yourself, you'll be fine. Third question. Take a look here. You're going to be asked to compare and contrast 2 of the sources. Real easy. 3 examples of each. Rodrigo, when you compare 2 sources, what do you do when you compare? What does that mean? You've got 2 sources. I'm going to compare this group to this group. What does that mean? No, not the differences. When you compare, what does that mean? Similarities. Rodrigo, if you're contrasting this group and that group, what are you doing? Exactly. So you find 3 similarities and 3 differences. That's it. Compare and contrast. Yeah. Yep. And they're going to give you those sources. In fact, that's what trust me. When you go through, and we'll give you this. When we get to the first one here, we're going to do a little bit of a practice one. We'll do the first one having to do with, I think this is the Kosovo one. Just answer the question. You'll see. It's not going to be too crazy hard. Okay? Yeah. Part A and Part B are 2 different questions dealing with kind of the same source. Yep. 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 I would say, unless they throw in the civil rights question and so forth, and some of you guys go off to that one and ignore whatever it's the Rwanda one or the Kosovo one, fine. If you feel comfortable doing that, I think you can do it. It's not going to be too crazy hard because you're going to be going through a lot of that civil rights material, so it should be pretty fresh in your head. Because really where it plays in, take a look at 4th question. Okay? 4th question is where you take what you know already and weave it in to a little mini essay that takes 20, 23 minutes about. It is a small-sized essay, and there are some particular things you need to do with it, and I have confidence that you can do that in that small little essay, because part of that small little essay is going to be evaluating sources that are right there in front of you, as well as bringing in some of the knowledge and information that you have from the outside, stuff that you've covered over the last 2 or 3 weeks? 8, 10 sentences. Yeah. Yeah, it is a micro essay. It is. Yeah. I mean, because you only got a limited amount of time to write it. No. 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 Question 1, part 1, and part A and B are like quick, couple sentences, 3 sentences, and so forth. The only thing that even looks really like an essay is the 4th question, and that's a short essay. And that's why I put the minutes and so forth there. Yeah, actually, based on the marks, that's a pretty good comparison. Based on the marks, that gives you a sense of how many sentences you're actually going to be writing in there. Okay, that's a good takeaway from that. All right, flip over to the back side. That's whatever that is, back of the page, the first page there. It's a mark scheme. They literally, you've got mark schemes that you're going to be using for like essays and so forth. The only real mark scheme that they give you here is for question 4 on the essay. And when you write this little mini micro essay for question number 4, these are the things. See my bullet points handwritten at the bottom there? I'm going to really stress this. If you want to have a really good score in your paper 1 thing, you're going to do this. It's not that hard. You're going to specifically cite each of the document using the letter, and then the first time you refer to it, the title, or at least an encapsulated version of the title. Okay? You know how to do that. You've done extended essays. You've done IAs. You give a cite for it. Source A, a speech by Paul Kagame says da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, And then the second bullet point, use all 4. Don't leave them out. It's not that hard. Find a way to use it. It's not going to be that hard, because as we go through you're going to read the things and go, oh, I know that. I understand that. I've just learned this material. I understand the context of where they're coming from. Yeah.
Okay, so let's just say I walked in, we're about to take the video on right now. What am I going to do? Like, I'm just confused at how much I'm at.
Okay. All right. Hold on. You ready? Because flipped over the next page. The next page ultimately has got, the assessments. Okay, we've already got that. That's all repeat. Okay, flip over there. This is me giving the training on paper 1 again, so it's got a lot of the same things there. The minutes might be slightly different. Okay? See my handwriting things right there? Use all the documents, identify after each use. Underline, the origin is, the purpose is, the value, the limitation, and so forth. Okay? Be very, very specific. Hit those, ding, 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 ding. There's the mark scheme again. All right, now, let's get to Julian's question. Take a look here. I want everyone to be on the same page. At the very top, upper right-hand corner, it says Paper 1, 2017. Paper 1, 2017, I'm going to have you, and you can jot down on this yourself, and we'll get started on it now, and we'll continue this when we come back after everyone's finished the test next time. This is what you see. Julian, this is what you're going to get. There'll be 5 different ones. You're probably going to go right to the very back of the packet, and you're going to have question 17, A, B, 18, 19, 20. And then behind that, take a quick look, flip over. Okay, do you see that? You'll have prescribed subject 5, conflict and intervention, source Q, source R, source S, and source T. That's it. That's what you use. So take a look. Number 17. Let's try and do this one. Are you ready? Let's look at the question here. How, according to source Q, were Albanians portrayed by Serbian propaganda? All right, everyone flip over, read source Q. And jot down, let me see, this one's worth how many? 3. So how many sentences do you want to have as far as how Albanians were portrayed by Serbian propaganda? 3. Just 3. Okay, so make bullet points. Ready? Write that down. Look on source Q. You got it? Source Q? Go ahead. You can even underline and so forth. How are Albanians portrayed by Serbian propaganda? you're a speed reader, you're already done. Mhm. Remember what the question is. According to the source, how were Albanians portrayed by Serbian propaganda? 3 examples. Yes! This is basic reading comprehension. Raise your hand if you can give me one way that the Serbs portrayed the Albanians. Yes, go ahead, Rodrigo. The way they looked. Okay, give me the quote. Look, it's particularly the second paragraph. Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay, so they look at a certain way. That's kind of an introduction thing. Yes, Ashton? Genetically inferior. Okay, good. That's one. That's a very good example. Make sure to answer the question. How are they being portrayed by the Serbian propaganda? Women are baby factories. Sexualized baby factories. Yes? Men were abusers and violent against women. Let me see. You had actually to accomplish that, what, 5 minutes? And you guys were able to wrap it up and identify, having read fairly quickly, within 3 minutes. The rest of the time is actually writing it down. It helps if you quote it, yeah, because that way you've actually got it very accurate, and that's part. We're going to continue the training after the exam next time. We'll actually go through this particular one, and then I'll tell you this. When we do the in-class paper 1, it's going to be either the 2018 question, which is Rwanda, or it'll be the 2019 question, which is Rwanda. Was there a 2020 question? No, there was not a 2020 question. What's that? No. They didn't give it to anyone. I would imagine the materials they had prepared, they're going to use this year. That's my guess. So I'm guessing it might have to do with Kosovo, because they've done Rwanda 2 years in a row.